Hello and welcome. Thanks so much for being a part of this. Thanks for tuning in. We are delighted to get to contribute this content to this wonderful, thriving, and evolving community. Today we're going to talk about usage listeners. Most simply, a usage listener is a simple way to monitor clicks. As your users navigate around between layouts and fire scripts, this technique will give you a method to track that, to monitor that activity over time, which can be useful for a number of reasons, including modernizing your legacy apps. Thanks so much to those who contributed, who asked great questions, who helped us think through this. It's been such a wonderful journey for us. We love learning. We love learning by doing, and usage listening is a wonderfully open-ended topic. There's no one best way. It's something to be experienced, shall we say. So we invite you into that process with us. We would love to have your feedback. We love those thumbs up and those likes. We also love getting brand new ideas. And our hope is that usage listeners will contribute significant new content to this community. And we need your help to do that, to take it even further. Thank you especially to Bob and Maka and Mislav from Soliant, and Chris Bailey and Chris Telling and Todd Stark, who all had great ideas and great questions, things that we're going to cover in today's session. Here's a bit about us as we get started. My name is Bill Bennett, and that's me in the lower right-hand corner, along with my wife and our two oldest kids from when we were living in Africa. We've since moved back to the States and most recently welcomed our new baby Jane. We also welcomed to this presentation Hassan Kanchi. Hassan was born in Iraq, moved to Germany as a boy, and now lives in Dubai in the Middle East. Thanks so much, Hassan. Let's consider one big idea. Observation brings insight. Said differently, seeing is believing. And let's also offer an analogy that can be helpful as we're getting started. Let's think back to the time before books were widely available, and we know the story. Along comes Gutenberg and the printing press and movable type, and before we know it, people can see for themselves. They can open a book and they can read for themselves and make up their own mind about what is actually true. Perhaps somewhat in the same way, you are currently going around and asking your stakeholders, asking your users which of the features that they're using resonate the most, where are they spending the most time, so that way you can fine-tune and focus your investment, the investment of your most precious commodity, and that is your time. Usage listeners may help you peel back the layers a bit more and explore and supplement those user conversations. Those will still be necessary, but they'll give you a bit more empirical evidence so that way you can decide for yourself. Usage listeners can produce a dynamic real-time dashboard like this. This is a layout in FileMaker, sub-summarized by users, so it only shows the unique users and summarizes and shows the total number of hits that each user has done across all of their layouts. Then we do a little trick that we'll show you in the 10th video of the step-by-step tutorials, where we can go through a relationship to see of all of those hits, what was their very latest, what was the most recent usage that they logged, show the timestamp of that recent usage, and compare that to the host timestamp. Let's watch that in action. Awesome. Welcome, team. Thanks so much for doing this. You right now are in our Rwanda office. You're navigating around the job tracking system that's hosted on our AWS server in Ireland, and I'm here in the US watching a dashboard in real time. How cool is this? Why don't I ask that you'll pause right where you are, and we'll just go around to confirm. Sonia, looks like you just had a click onto the staff list. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true.
Lambert, are you looking at the client list right now?
Yes, I'm on client layout.
Awesome. And Abdu, you're over on the job list.
Exactly. That's where I am.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's fine.
Awesome. That's cool.
So fun to see this. Thanks for doing this. Thanks again to those who helped think through some of the key questions around usage listening. What about privacy Am I going to introduce brand new problems? And what about performance? I may be putting these usage listeners into an enterprise system or into a legacy system that's having performance issues. Let's step through. On the first question of privacy, you need to use your best judgment and think through all of the possible ramifications of how this information could be used, whether it is by yourself or even by others. A few small tips that may help. Consider creating some visibility or even enrolling others, rather than Big Brother behind the scenes that no one knows about that may come out as a big surprise. Let's think of this as a new dashboard that everyone logs into. It's a scoreboard that everyone gets to benefit from. Also, there's no reason why you have to track individual users' names. You could certainly track department or other information, a unique ID that may help you analyze without any danger of that information getting out and being used for ill purposes. In order to avoid introducing new problems to your solution, always consider the context, especially with that key script that's going to be collecting the information right at the point that the layout loads or that the script fires or virtually anywhere else. Context is king in FileMaker and you don't want to disrupt it. Your user may be inside of the context of a portal, or the script may even be relying on such small things as active modifier keys that your user is holding down the shift key, for example. So you can't use any set fields or go to layouts. You can't perform any other unknown script. You've got to think very carefully about that specific collection script. Inside of it, you should feel pretty free to set variables. You should be able to build if statements. You can fire some gets in there like get layout name and get account name and get some other things. Be aware though that some gets can actually tax your servers, such as get current host timestamp, that may be very tempting to use if you're going to hit huge volumes of transactions. Be cognizant that each one of those steps may cost you later. Writing and reading to file should also be safe. In fact, we think this is a great purpose for it. As you'll be writing out to a third-party text document and sucking data right back in from it, that should be very lightweight and should not disrupt your user's workflow. Perform script on server is another great way to hand off information to a different context without disrupting your users. The only other tip is to be sure to not track usage on the very layout that you're using to write the usage. Otherwise, you may find yourself in an infinite loop. A few tips on performance. Start with a narrow hypothesis, something you want to prove or disprove. For example, my CSR team, they're using 5 main layouts super heavily, exhaustively. They really don't use anything else. And we'd like to hire someone to build those out into a WebDirect solution or into an iPad solution. Great, let's prove or disprove that hypothesis. Consider both performance for the individual users, which sometimes can be easier to see because you hear about it, versus the server's performance. Even if the server keeps up with you, you may inadvertently bump out other server-side processes or delay them so that they stop functioning properly. For example, if you fire a huge volume of perform script on server, there's a limit to how many concurrent PSOS sessions can be running at any one time. And so just be aware that you want to be judicious with how you use that function. Keep your collection script as lightweight as you possibly can. It may be tempting to grab a bunch of other information or even execute SQL right at that moment that we're about to record this usage because we're curious. If you need to, consider it and be ready to roll it back. But in general, you want to keep that one script that does all of the listening as lightweight as possible. Next, build a usage stack. So rather than recording and writing one usage record at a time, we'll show you in the tutorials how to build up a big usage stack so that way you can dump it off to the server only as you need to. Again, this ties back to your hypothesis. It's fun to show some real-time dashboards as users are clicking around. But if your hypothesis does not demand that you have real-time information, then try to build up as big of a stack as you can. You may lose that stack if for some reason the user's session is interrupted and you've built your stack into a global variable. You may find that, that usage session didn't actually come through. That may be just fine, depending on your hypothesis. If you're trying to capture something as sensitive as a user's crash, what layout were they on, what record were they on, what script were they in right at that moment that they crashed, then possibly consider using write to file instead of a global variable. That should preserve your usage stack outside of the client experience, so that way on open, you can go ahead and write that usage stack and have a bit of forensics. Lastly, consider as you hand off this information to write it into the database, whether that's on close or as part of a perform script on server, as we'll show you, consider only writing in the entire bulk raw data rather than breaking it out and parsing it right then and there. You could always parse it and unpack it later as a nightly function, or even only at the time that you're ready to do the analysis. Consider that as a key option is you're going to hand off a bulk set of information, whether it's return delimited or a big JSON text blob. Just write in that entire JSON text blob. You really only have one go to layout, new record, and a set field, and you're done. That can be a lot less intensive than trying to do all of the text parsing and looping right then and there. Lastly, centralize all of your usage listening to run through one main script. That will give you the option to flip it on or off right at the start of the script with a simple exit script. You'll have applied your usage listener to tons of different layouts and a bunch of different scripts, and it won't be feasible for you to go back around to each one of those layouts and untoggle it in the middle of a performance issue. You'll need some spot where you can safely and quickly retreat. Please reach out to us if you have any questions about performance and your usage listeners for your specific installation. We've seen usage listeners safely deployed for hundreds of concurrent users, global installation bases, and seen how they can provide new insight that can actually improve performance. And if you have tips and ideas for how to make usage listeners that much better, please post those on community.claris.com. We invite you to download files for this session from kizasolutions.com/engage. Inside of your download, you'll see a few subfolders. We'll provide the original job tracking template exactly as it is, and step-by-step tutorial instructions so you can follow along. We'll go beyond that 10th step and add a few more bells and whistles and provide that file, as well as an add-on so you can easily bolt this into your existing solutions. Open up the job tracking starter solution and let's go up to File, Manage Database and add a new table. We'll add a new table called FM Listener. It could also be called Usage or Log or anything you'd like. We're simply going to add one new table and add one new field for now. We'll call it Layout. This table will track each instance of a user hitting a specific layout that you're interested in tracking. We can define layout as a text field and select OK to submit that in. By default, FileMaker will give us a brand new layout for this new table. Let's go ahead and take a look at that layout and go into layout mode. In addition to the new field we've created called layout, let's pull across a few more. We want to know not only what layout was hit, but by whom and when. Let's go back into browse mode and see what we've got. We can add a few new records to this table, and let's toggle it over to view it as a table because we're going to see a large volume of records get added over time. Excellent. Looks like it is working nicely. So let's delete all of our sample records and we are ready. We are now ready to start adding a few scripts into your solution to track layout usage. My favorite view for this is to go up to Manage View Layouts. You can toggle your carrots here to open up subfolders and see exactly what's going on. And right from this one view, you can see whether there are any script triggers applied to any of your layouts across the entire solution. Select a layout. For starters, let's select the dashboard layout, and let's go into the script triggers on layout, enter. You'll see many different layout triggers inside of here, but for this solution, we're only going to look at this on layout, enter script. And let's go ahead and create a script by the exact same name and affix it to that dashboard layout. We'll only do a couple of things. We'll create a brand new variable here simply called layout that will use FileMaker's get function, get layout name. And then in order to make sure it's working, let's test it out. We'll do a show custom dialog, and we'll display the results of that variable as we click around the solution. We'll clear out the cancel button. It wouldn't do anything anyway, and we'll say OK. So we've got one brand new script that we've added to your solution. We've attached it to the on layout enter script trigger, and now we can begin applying that around to some other layouts. Let's just pick a few. For example, client detail. Some double clicks will move you through this pretty quickly here. So you can double click right on the job list. I'll move quickly, and I know that you can pause the video. I'm just going to add this to 5 or 6 places. On layout enter, let's say the job list as well as the client list. Job detail and client detail. We'll leave it undone on certain layouts, and we'll demonstrate the difference between a layout that we really care to track versus layouts that we do not need to track. Let's try it out. We're going to navigate to the dashboard, and there we have it. We have a custom dialog that's popped up and has told us the name of the layout that we're navigating to. Same with the job list, and let's drill into the job detail. Excellent. Now, what's going to happen as we scroll between records on a given layout? That's right, nothing will happen if we defined it correctly. And that's a good thing. We do not want to overburden the server or overburden any part of this process with any extra overhead that we don't need. Let's begin recording usage. We currently have one script inside of your solution. Let's go ahead and add a second script. Let's call it record usage. We'll pass a parameter into this script. And so let's begin by defining a new variable called layout that simply receives get script parameter. We'll also want to set up a new global variable, so you have 2 $signs, called usage, and this will be your usage stack. We'll build up the usage stack by appending on any new layouts that need to get written. We'll separate that with the carriage return. And there we have it. Let's save that script, and then let's go hook it up to the main calling script on layout enter. Give ourselves some space. We'll perform a script, and we'll pass through our parameter. And before we exit the script, let's update our custom dialog so we can see that stack building up. We'll put this layout name up as the title of the dialog, and then let's display the entire usage stack down in the body of that message. Okay, we'll save that and let's give it a try. We're going to click around. Let's go over to the job list. Great. Job list, job list. Great. Here's the first spot where we see that we're building a usage stack. Again, navigating between records, no problem, no clicks, no pop-ups. But as soon as we navigate back to that job list, we'll see our usage stack starting to build up. Over to the dashboard, and there we have it. For this tutorial, we'll want to start using the data viewer, and we'll need our advanced tools for that, which you can find under preferences if you haven't already installed them. We'll go into the data viewer, and let's go inspect our usage stack. You should see that right inside of the current variables. And right at the top of the usage stack, we've left ourselves an empty carriage return. So let's see if we can improve that a bit. Inside of our record usage script, we currently say, regardless of whether there's usage or not, append a carriage return and the layout. So let's use a case statement instead, and we'll ensure that the usage stack is not empty before we append that carriage return. If it is empty, then let's simply set the layout as the first entry in our usage stack. We'll say OK out of that, and then we can either quit FileMaker and reopen, or we can just manually clear the usage stack to test this out. Let's close out of our scripts and click around. There we have it. The usage stack looks to not have that carriage return right at the start, and that'll help us later. Looking good. Next, we will begin writing your usage stack into a table. We'll create a brand new script called write usage to table. And this will be the first time that we'll break context. We're going to start with a go to layout. We'll go to your FM listener layout. This is a very significant script step because this will disrupt your user. So we'll need to use this judiciously and carefully. We'll loop through the usage stack starting with set variable. And we'll create a loop. And we'll increment that variable with every loop. Always a tricky thing, how do we kick out of the loop? Well, we'll be done with the loop by the time that we're at the end of the usage stack, that our counter has reached a higher number than the number of values that's inside of your usage stack. Now let's set a new variable called layout, and we'll pull out the layout name depending on the variable I. We'll create a new record. And another significant moment, we're going to set this variable into the database. So this moment, we're going to have a set field. And as soon as that set field commits, we're going to push that record, that data, into the database. If we're doing this at high volumes, this is another moment that we need to think very carefully about. One small change is that if for some reason we call this function with no values in the usage stack, then we're going to want to kick out before we even create a blank record. So we'll move that right up top. Okay, that's looking good. Let's save that script and come back to our layout. Let's pull open the data viewer so we can see what our usage stack is right now. Okay, that's great. We've got 3 entries in there. We'll go over to our FM listener table. Great. No records in there. And we're ready to give it a shot. All right, 3 records in the usage stack, 3 records in the table. Perfect. One small thing though, after we've recorded this usage, we kind of want to clear out the usage stack so we don't have to record it again. So we'll add one set variable to the end of that script. We'll save that, and let's try it again. All right, we're ready for the next step. Let's go back into scripts to our main onLayoutEnter script, and let's turn off the show custom dialog so we can begin to take this for a ride. We'll go into File and File Options, where we can scroll over to the script triggers, and let's take a look at this onLastWindowClose script. The job tracking file, this will be easy. It's simply called trigger on close. And great, it doesn't do much currently. And so this will be a perfect spot for us to perform our brand new script where we can write the usage into the table. And here's the key. This will not disrupt the user's context because they are simply closing the file. So this is our moment when we know that the user will not be disrupted. Let's test it out. Let's navigate all around, just start clicking. Let's log in some usage into our global variable, into our usage stack. We'll take a look at the usage table. That has our 6 records, and as soon as I close, we're going to write more records to the table. Let's open the file again, scroll down to the FM listener layout. All right, there are our new records. Those are the transactions that we submitted into the database as the user closed the file, so that does not disrupt their context and doesn't add any overhead to their user experience. We're making great progress now. Now let's begin to think about how we can write this data into the table even in the middle of a user session without them having to close. So we'll keep our old script, write usage to table, And we'll just do that on close, and we'll leave that exactly as it is because we're going to want to use it. And let's duplicate this script. We'll call this one write usage to table on server. And this one will be safe for us to call even in the middle of a user session. But there's one trick. This server will not be able to see our global variable. So we'll set up our global variable right at the time we call it, you guessed it, with a script parameter. Whatever script parameter we pass in to the server instance, that becomes the usage stack. Let's go back to our main calling script, this record usage, and say, well, as that stack builds up, if it has, let's say, more than 9 entries in it, and the stack is getting a little bit big, so perhaps periodically, we could dump that stack directly into the server. This is our first moment where we're going to get to try this cool thing that people call PSauce, perform script on server. It's the exact same thing as calling a subscript. It's just rather than performing it locally, we'll perform it out there on the server. We do get this cool option to wait for completion, and we'll go ahead and turn that off. We'll let the local user keep going with whatever they're doing while the server goes ahead and does the work of recording the usage to the table. We'll pass in our variable, our global variable, as the script parameter. And then let's go ahead and clear our usage stack so that way the user can go on. Looking good. We've got a few more steps to take to make sure that our perform script on server does no harm. We may be seeing a high volume of these transactions, and it's important that they execute quickly. So let's go find our onOpen script, and let's put in a little if up top to say, if I'm running on the server, don't do all these other things. Let's go over to the data viewer and start building out an expression that we can test. We'll pull in the get application version. Right away, we'll see that's Pro 19.01. Let's use the left words because if we grab just the first word, then we're going to expect to find the word server exactly if this is opening as perform script on server. We'll evaluate this and we're going to expect that to be false. Perfect. It returned a 0, which is false. That's the expression that we need right at the start of our onOpen and our onClose scripts. And we simply want to exit the script because if we're performing script on server, we just want to stop right there and get on to the business of writing the usage into the table. In order to try that out, we'll need to host the file. And in order to host the file, we should go to Manage Security and add a password for the admin account. I'll just set it to admin, and I'll go ahead and add a few friends so we can have a multi-user experience and watch those transactions come in. I'll add Lambert and Sonia and a few other colleagues from our East Africa office, what we call our upshore team. And that will be great to have them contribute. Excellent. Let's click OK. We'll have to authenticate one more time, and then we're ready to upload the file. Now we're ready to try it out. I've hosted the file using file sharing upload to host. And we can go back into our scripts and let's add ourselves a little bit of visibility. It's hard to see when the server script is going to get called. So once we're actually attempting to dump that usage stack, let's just give ourselves a quick dialogue to let ourselves know as we're trying to test it out. A small incremental step forward of verifiable progress. Let's navigate around a little bit and we'll see our usage stack starts to build up locally for the client. That's 8 or 9 entries, so another click or two, and we should have our first perform script on server. But before we do, let's just go confirm. Okay, great. We've got 24 entries out there in the database, and there it is, usage written to server. We just performed our first script on server, and now we have 34 records in the database. 10 of which were created at 9:17 local time in Ireland, where our AWS server is. Go back to the dashboard and let's try it again. Let's build up about 10 clicks and we should hopefully see a pop-up. Usage written to server. Okay, we did it again. Let's go inspect the results. Excellent. 44 entries, 9:18 p.m. Note the server time versus our local time of 5:18 here in the Midwest. Now let's try something that'll crank it up a notch. Let's take that stack requirement all the way down to 0. So we'll attempt to write to the server with every single click. Remember the 3 Ps. Don't introduce problems. Don't introduce performance issues. So this step right here is not for the faint of heart, but it's great for a demo. Let's open up a couple of windows side by side, and let's go ahead and clear out our entire usage table just so we can watch it work here. Let's delete all records from the FM listener table, and we'll open these up side by side, and we'll get ready to click around. As we click, each and every click will be performing a script on server. Now, if that script is really fast and there's not many other server-side scripts, or you've only got 5 to 10 users, you'll have no problem doing this. I'll slide over to a Windows machine where I've logged in as my colleague Sonia. I'll click around a little bit and then flip back over to my Mac where I can see those entries have already gotten created. So we can see what that's going to start to feel like as a multi-user experience. Now that we've got some data starting to build up, we get to the real fun part where we can start to create a dashboard. Let's go to File Manage Database, back to the FM listener table, and we'll create one new field that's simply a summary field, and we'll define it as a count of the layout. This will represent the unique number of hits on any one layout. Say OK out of that. Let's go into Manage Layouts now, and we'll add a new layout. Let's follow through with FileMaker's reporting wizard. We'll call this Listener Summary. We'll base it off of our FM listener table, and let's define it as a new report. We'll include subtotals and grand totals by default. It really only needs one field on the layout to start, and that is the layout field. We'll group it by the layout as well, so we can see subdivisions of those unique layouts. Here's one tricky part. We're going to want to do this reorder based on summary field descending. You might want to think through that one. We'll move pretty quickly through here, but that will get us that nice effect of being able to see which layout is hit the most often at the top. We'll add a few more summary fields to the subsummary as well as to the add-in. Let's go ahead and do this create a script. It's our listener summary by layout, and that'll be a great report for any of us to run at any time. Let's go ahead and run that script, and we'll take a look. A new layout has been created for us. Excellent. It'll take us right into browse mode, and it'll sort. So we can see that it's sorting. We can see the layouts that are hit and the total number of hits. But we can pull a few things off of this default layout. We don't even need any body in this report, because what we really want to just see is a sub-summary and a grand total. There we have it. 9 job list hits, 9 dashboard hits. And the real fun part is that we can click around, and in real time, FileMaker, even in that background window, will refresh that information in real time as we click. I just love watching that in the background. Now that it's working well, let's start to apply it to other layouts. Now, you may have a solution with hundreds of layouts, and so the technique that you'll use to apply this becomes important. Manage Layouts is my favorite view. It'll let you double click directly on the layout name and let you see whether there's any script triggers already applied to a layout. If you do already have script triggers applied to a layout, you'll need to find that script and call this script right at the top of it, making sure not to disrupt your context. One important note, thinking back to the 3 Ps, is be sure to not define any script trigger on your FM listener layout. If you do, You may inadvertently set off an infinite loop as the server attempts to both record the usage as well as write the usage. Let's go back into our script and make sure. On layout, enter right at the top of it. We can put in a few traps. If get layout name equals FM listener, do not record that to our usage stack. Just exit the script right at the top. You can take that one step further as well. If there's other layout names that you want to be sure to exclude because they're outside the bounds of your hypothesis, you can use this nice function called layout names, and it'll receive a get file name parameter inside of it, and that will list out a nice return delimited list of all of your layout names inside of your solution. We'll give you a quick flyover of how we created this user dashboard. It involves a few new fields that you want to add to your FM listener table. You'll need a summary field to grab the maximum of the creation timestamp. We'll need a get summary calculation so that way we can relate it by the latest usage for that particular user. We'll have a multi-criteria relationship where we'll match all usage for that user, but then only filter that down to the very latest usage for that particular user when we happen to be in that sort order. In order to get the minutes to appear, we'll want to have a global field that gets set on open, so that way we don't tax the server. We wouldn't want to be asking the server for the current host timestamp over and over again. But we can convert that to a number of seconds of offset and presume that basically that stays static between the client and the server as we're watching our dashboard. We can convert that to minutes by saying what's our current timestamp. We can ask that question over and over again without a significant performance impact. Take off the creation timestamp, take off the offset, divide that by 60 to turn that into minutes. Nearly there. We need a layout with a sub-summary part to list out each unique user. And we'll use our relationship to show the very latest and greatest layout that they touched, the creation timestamp, as well as the minutes since. Lastly, we'll create a script to tie it all together. In this script, we will sort the records, again, using this reorder based on summary field. That will pull up the most recent usage. When we run the script, that will sort nicely for us in descending order.
Hello everyone, my name is Hassan Kanchi, and in this video we'll explore how to add usage listeners to any FileMaker app using add-on modules. We'll go through how to add, install, configure, and if needed, uninstall our usage listener add-on. Please note, for the add-on feature, you'll need FileMaker Pro 19 or above. For those of you who are new to add-ons, this feature allows us to quickly and easily add modular components to a FileMaker solution, extending the functionality of your apps. Add-ons can include tables, custom functions, scripts, and even entire layouts. On your right side, you can see some Claris add-ons. You can also create and add your own, or download ready ones. In our case, we'll be adding the Usage Listener add-on. To make our Usage Listener add-on module available to use in FileMaker Pro, we simply drag and drop our downloaded add-on package folder into the add-on modules folder and restart FileMaker Pro. You notice that the folder is just a collection of JSON and XML files. That's all you need to add an add-on. Another method will be opening our FileMaker Setup app and simply click Save Add-on. This will automatically add the Usage Listener add-on package into the respective Mac or Windows add-on modules folder. Once done, restart FileMaker. Next, we'll show you a step-by-step video tutorial how to add Usage Listener add-on into any FileMaker solution. We'll start with adding our Usage Listener add-on. To make an add-on available to use in FileMaker Pro, go to your session download material, go to Add-on, Add-on Package folder, and completely copy your FM Listener folder. Go to your FileMaker Add-on Modules folder and paste. Alternatively, if you're like me and find it difficult to find the Add-on Modules folder or not comfortable with this process, you could always go to the FM listener file, double click on that, and simply click Save Add-on. For the add-on to work, you need to make sure to restart FileMaker completely. To demonstrate how to install the Usage Listener add-on into a FileMaker custom app, either open the provided job tracking template or any other solution. Go to Edit Layout. If the left pane is not open, click on Show Left Pane. Go to Add-ons panel. Click on the plus button, scroll down, and select FM Listener. Now that FM Listener is installed, you can drag and drop it into the layout. This copies all the components of the add-on into the app, all the necessary table schema, required scripts, and even entire layouts. Now what's left is to configure our usage listener like Bill demonstrated. We'll go first into File, Manage, Scripts, go to our trigger on Open, and add that one line perform script code. And choose our on first window open script from the FM Listener folder. Next we'll save and set up the layouts that we want to track by double clicking on a layout, selecting script triggers, choosing on layout enter, and choosing the same name on layout enter. You continue to do this for the other layouts. Please watch Bill recording how to use usage listeners further. In an unlikely event that you want to uninstall an add-on, all you have to do is go to the add-on panel, right-click on the add-on, and select Uninstall Add-on. This will permanently delete all the tables, fields, and record data used by this add-on, so be careful to choose this option. Hope you enjoyed the Usage Listener add-on session. What formerly involved multiple steps for setting up schema, copying scripts, custom functions, and formatting additional layouts and parts is now done with a few clicks. Thank you for attending this session. We'd love to hear your feedback, or maybe you got some new ideas to share. Please connect with us at community.claris.com.